Okay, the best way to really start talking about solving problems is by introducing what we call the accumulator pattern. So, what is an accumulator pattern? Well, in a lot of problems that you have in JavaScript, you have to go through the process of looking at the output that you want to produce and then going through a process of building that output in a loop or some other type of control structure. So let's give an example just to bring this to home. We're going to start just going over some problems. It's the easiest way to just start talking about. We've looked at a lot of tools. We've looked at data structures. We've looked at different ways of manipulating those data structures. Let's actually talk about doing some things um, to use accumulator patterns to solve problems. So let's say we have something. Let's say that there's a problem. It says write a method to that accepts an array of colors and returns only those colors that are shorter than 5 characters. If you're familiar with JavaScript higher order functions, something like this could be written in one line of code. But if you just want to use an accumulator pattern and loop through, there's a way to do this. If you've seen in some of your resources, I think you've probably seen some problem solving activities when they talk about focus on your inputs and your outputs. So we'll write a function. This actually is not a method, it's a function. It's just a regular function. A method is a function that's part of a class. But since this is just a function, it's a function. So we'll say function um, filter colors. It takes an array. Right? And in this particular case, what we want to do is we want to, it accepts an array of colors and returns only colors that are shorter than 5 characters. So we would loop, right? For is less than array.length, 5 plus plus. Now, when we talked about this concept of an accumulator pattern, when you are building an output to return to the user, you usually have a data structure that serves as a container that's going to hold the output that you're slowly building over time. So, for example, inside of this one here, before we loop, we could create a container. Our output, we'll just call it output, equals an empty. Right. And then, so we go into array.length if array at I dot length, and we want it's only the shorter than 5. So it's less than 6, or we could say less than or equal to 5, right? Output push array at I. Now notice the bracket balancing. If I put my cursor here, this means this bracket started here, and if I put my cursor here, this one started here. It just helps you keep track of where you are. Before, and then this one here, this is the function. So right here is where we put our return. We're going to return our output. That's our function. We haven't called it yet, so I'm just going to call the function filter colors. We're going to pass it colors. I'm going to console.log the result of this. Okay, so it filtered out purple. That's the only one that was too long. But if we had goldenrod, right? So that works. So, but the takeaway here is that we had a container, and the container is our accumulator. As we go through, we're constantly building that output, and then we return the output. So that's our first accumulator pattern example.